Okay, so people display who they are with that language, but people can also choose the language that they use to perceive, to influence how they are perceived. So far we've talked about how language displays our culture, our gender, our biases, and whatnot, right? And our occupation, right? But how we choose to speak might be actually influenced not by who we are as an individual, but who society expects of us to be, right? And that is where we can talk about the diminishing or how society impacts language as opposed to language impacting society. So I had this example that I used a lot, quite a bit in my exams last year, or like my practices last year, was that this like Singaporean student, international student coming to Australia, instead of being able to use her Singlish, like Singaporean English, she actually adopted a more general Australian accent to speak with her Australian friends because she felt afraid to not be part of the dominant group in terms of the language that they use, right? And that's clearly an unfortunate thing. Um, no one should feel pressured to do that. Uh, and so that is where how that we've got this monolingual society that has all these expectations and the covert prestige of the standard Australian English surrounding it, impacting actually our cultural identity and who we are as a person because we are unable to express our individual um, cultural and ethnolex that she had. So, using an ethnolex at home can emphasize your identity, while using more Australian colloquialisms or using the general accent can emphasize the Australian expectation and identity more so than their uh, individual or ethnic identity. So, with different contexts, gives different effects on how people want their identity to be perceived. Um, yep. And yeah, so yeah, as I said earlier with the example I gave, our accent changes uh, with where we set ourselves to be and the audience we interact with. Yep. So in this example here, this one's quite outdated, but um, Dominic Cansdale said that they quickly go back to speaking more Australian when they're surrounded by other Australians, as opposed to uh, trying to fit in the innate need to fit in with those around them and using more UK slang or UK words and UK accent. Like, so in this case, Emma refers to soccer as football. I'm not gonna, yeah, and has adopted a full-blown English accent apparently after 5 years. That's actually very quick. Wow. Yeah, and so I guess it just shows that how we speak is impacted also by society and the audience we have surrounding us. Okay. Um, these are just more examples of how, uh, like the environment we're in impacting our language. Uh, yep. Nothing too significant on that slide. Okay, so uh, yeah, as mentioned, the identity that we have, we generally want to convey different identities based on our different uh, circumstances, right? So humans are can be bi slash multi dialectal, and not be, not be limited to one, as we want to signal our identity to the best degree that fits our needs as much as possible. And that way of thinking, or that sort of aspect of language, is also another important thing that you can mention in your essays, about how not only can language impact society, society can impact language, or perhaps not only do we want to express uh, who we actually are, we might also want to hide some of our identity, or take on a different persona, or utilize a certain dialect to present ourselves in a different manner. So not only does our language, not only does our identity impact our language, but our language also impacts um, who we are perceived to be, who our uh, perceived identity is, right? And for example, me right now, I'm speaking to you kind of in a formal manner, kind of in a presentation manner. Like you wouldn't see me speaking like this to most of my friends. I'm not usually this talkative, but yeah, the way that we speak is heavily influenced by our audience, and who we are, right? And that's like a contention and a half right there. There's a lot of aspects that you can go down, or paragraphs you can write on, just based on talking about how the language that we use and the audience that we have impacts one another, right?